I get out of prison, and you gotta get all these stupid jobs, like you're throwing a paper out, then you're working warehouse and warehouse. But then, that's when I won a very special contest on the radio. Oh, me and this little guy have had some good times. I don't even know. But when I got on the radio, here's it. Okay, I got a whole lifetime of being on the radio. It was amazing. I got to do radio stuff. It was all fun, but I didn't apply. The way I got on the radio was great. I was working at a warehouse, and we would listen to the same station. Our boss would have the same station over and over. Classic rock. KCAL, 96.7, KCAL rocks, right? So, I'm over in this warehouse listening to this shit over and over. And one day they're having a contest. They're like, we want to see how die-hard the Inland Empire is, the IE. And that's where I'm from. And they're like, we want to see what you guys will do for your radio station, IE. And these people start calling, and I could give a shit less right now about the contest. And I just hear these people calling and representing my hood, where I'm from, and being like, I'm so diehard, I wrote you a poem. The fuck? And then someone else calls in, they're like, I wrote you a love ballad. Then someone's like, oh man, I painted your stuff on my fucking backseat of my old car that sits in the garage. Like, what the fuck? So I called in and got through, and I was like, your fans are pussies, man. And they're like, what? I'm like, your fans are pussies. These guys aren't from the IE. I'm like, someone needs to tattoo that shit. And they're like, why don't you do it, pussy? And I was like, all right, I'll show you. Come to think of it, you could probably make me do anything if you called me a pussy. Because I left that night. I was like, I'll call you guys back tomorrow. They're like, yeah, right. I left and got KCAL. KCAL tatted right there on my chest. And then I went back the next day. They're like, you won the contest. I was like, no shit, pussies. And I went in, and this is how I got my job as a radio personality. I go in. They're like, here's your prize. You get to come to the studio, and you get to take a KCAL t-shirt off of a Playboy model's back. And I was like, all right, I guess. So I go down to the studio, okay, and I get there, and I'm blitzed. I'm high as fuck. I'm smoking all the way there, and I get in, they're like, here it is, da-da-da-da. And we take it off, and she's wearing pasties, and da-da-da. And then they make a joke, they're like, hey, if you're married, you better not let your wife smell that shirt. I was like, hey, if she's driving home, she better not let the cops smell her now. And they're like, that's great, where'd you come from? I was like, Bob Marley's closet. They're like, this is fucking hilarious. They're like, can you come back next week? It's 420. I was like, yeah, I'll come back next week. So I go back the next week, do a whole 420 segment for 3 hours. After that, they're like, do you want a job here? Like, well, do you want to just come do this? And I'm like, hell yeah, I'll come down and do this. And that's when radio was fun, not this FCC shit. Like, the name of the morning show is Your Morning Stiffy. That's how far. Like, we were allowed to do whatever fuck we wanted. Here's how you knew we pressed the envelope. We had a thing that we did every year called boob camp. Do you guys understand what would happen if we even pitched this today? Like, I just walk into Disney, I got a great show for you. Now put it on National Geographic. No one will give a fuck, you own them all. We had boob camp. Let me explain this. We would take 15 attractive young females, or whatever they wanted to be called, and they would be flat. You couldn't have over a B cup to enter, okay? So you'd be completely flat, and you would enter, and every day, we had an actual drill sergeant from the Marines. And he would be there, and every day you'd have to go through boob camp. And one day, like the first day, 3 girls would get eliminated, then 2, then pa. So there's only 2 left at the end of the week, right? But how would they get eliminated, you say? Well, you know, we had some very respectable games that would... Not at all. This is the worst. So Monday was Jimbo's day. And Jimbo got to play Hot Fudge Sundae Twister with 15 girls. And whatever girl couldn't stand, she's eliminated. And when they would get eliminated, the drill sergeant would come in and be like, Brenda, you're flat as hell, and we're not gonna take it anymore. Dismiss. Well, Tuesday was my day. And for Stoner Rob Day, you would have to catch Stoner Rob's balls in your mouth. And what it was frozen meatballs dipped in pancake batter. And then I feel like I'm going to jail just telling people that I did this. And then you would take the ball, and the girls would be standing. Right? You guys know 3 flies up? So all the girls would have their hands tied behind their back. Take the meatball, dip it in the batter, launch it in the air. Yeah, ball smacking people in the eyes. Well, it's like you just take a ball to the eye, fall on the floor, you fucking bust open your ear, and they're like, you're flat as hell, and we're not gonna take it anymore. I don't know why they kicked us off. It really doesn't make any sense. But I started doing radio, and it was cool, because that's the first time I met a lot of cool-ass motherfuckers. Like, doing radio, you get to interview people. That's how I started to do comedy, is I was on radio, and I remember I was at the radio station, and we're interviewing Christopher Titus, and we're interviewing Corey and Chad from The Dirty Show. And we're doing this interview back and forth. They're like, dude, you're funny as fuck, man. They're like, you should do comedy. And I was like, well, where do you apply? For that fucking job, like, you just start. Like, I'm a comedian now. Everybody hire me. I got some references. Chris Titus, call him. You can call him. He's my friend. So they're like, no, here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna come to the Improv tonight, and you're gonna open up with 5 minutes. Be there at 7. I was like, are you fucking serious? They're like, let's see what you got. So I was there at 3:30. I was so fucking nervous. And back then, I would never do anything now, what I did back then. And it got a great laugh because it was a big crowd, but I did the dumbest, cheesiest shit. I got there so nervous. I go on stage and they're like, just do your comedy. And I go on. And the first thing I say is, you ever smoked weed with a Chinese guy? I was like, you ever seen a Chinese guy get Chinese eyes? I was like, he doesn't get high, he gets blind. But I've grown since then. But because of the radio, I got to do a lot of cool things, and that is when I started to meet some very interesting people. Ooh, speaking of which, here's a story about somebody. You guys might know him, You might not know him. It doesn't fit. His name's O.J. Simpson.